We're going to talk about how to muscle test. Muscle testing is an incredible tool to figure out true from false. David R. Hawkins, who wrote Power versus Force, a revolutionary book, I think it taps into pure awareness that knows all things, that knows true from false all the time. And you can see that in, like, let's say, mitochondria. How do you spell mitochondria? Mitochondria. So in a mitochondria, it in a petri dish, even separate from your cell, it's alive in a petri dish. It swims towards things that are food and will nourish it, and it goes away from things that are poison. It knows. So your body is a conduit for truth, for knowing what is good, what is bad in the ultimate sense. So how do we tap into that? Because people are using muscle testing to get yes and no answers about anything, literally anything in the world. I don't know, random facts. Let's say Adolf Hitler committed suicide. You can test that, true, not true. Let's see, Joe Biden is lying about this, and say something, and then you can get yes or no answers. Anything in the world, in any worlds. It's pretty incredible, this theory, because it taps into a body of knowledge that is, it's not separate from any of us. It is pure awareness where all things are known. So how do you tap into that? Muscle testing. You can ask weird stuff like that. Or you can even ask, is this coffee is good for me? And hold some coffee and then test. I usually test and go a week with coffee, but I still drink it. So anyway, how do you do it? So here's some simple tests, simple rules on how to muscle test. Rule number one, ask permission. So this is assuming that you're getting clear yes or no answers. One of the first things you need to do is ask permission. Do I have permission? Yes or no? What you'll find is sometimes you get a no, and it's just like it's not yours to know. So I'm going to come back to that one because it is probably after you figure out how to do it. So the gist of it is you want to either feel strong or weak. You want to feel strong or weak. So here's some different methods. I want to move to the top of the list here. So the different methods that people use for muscle testing is one, pry your fingers apart. So I used to do it like this, pry my fingers apart. And when I ask something, it will rain today. And if I get strong, I'll feel the strength, and it'll be harder to pry my fingers apart with this hand. That's how I used to do it. But then I tore some ligaments, and now I can't do that anymore. So now some people do it like this, where they pull their finger through. And when this is strong, it's going to keep my pointer finger in there. And when it goes weak, it'll let it through. Now, what you got to know with all of these is it's subtle, meaning that what you're trying to do is feel the energy change within you to be able to feel the weak, which would be a not yes answer, and the strong, which is the yes answer. So if I say coffee is the highest good for me, and I would tend to go weak. This is how I'll usually do it now. So this way, you can do it this way, you can do it this way, any way where you have a latch and you're trying to open up go through the latch. So this latch right here is what I'll use. Coffee is for my highest good. And I tend to get a no on that one. Drinking lots of water is for my highest good. And I tend to get a yes on that one, which is strong. Now, if you pay attention though, you don't even really need to do the mechanism. If you pay attention and you get good at this, you can feel the strength or the weakness, or I can feel the strength or weakness already in my hand. The weak feeling that I don't have as much strength and the strong feeling where it feels like it's easier to kind of latch on. And I can feel that if I'm sensitive to this. And how do you get sensitive? You can practice. Another way that people do this with other people is the outstretched arm. So we'll have an outstretched arm like this, and someone else will come and push on it. Now, the way that this works is in your shoulder, you have a latch. Basically, your shoulder it's kind of locked. When they push down, if it's a no, it's going to just go down easy. But you can kind of get locked at a certain place, and you're not using your muscle. You're not trying to resist somebody doing muscle testing to try to win and stay strong. Same way, you're not trying to hold your fingers together with muscle. And you're trying to push and you're trying to stay latched together. What it is, it's a equilibrium place, a really peaceful, neutral place. And from that neutral place, when you propose the statement, within you can feel the strength or the weakness response to the question. So if your shoulder is locked, coffee is good for me to drink daily. I can even feel my shoulder kind of relax. And if someone were to push, it would go down. And I can feel my hand relax so that it would make it easy to push right through. Coffee or water is good for me to drink. Is my highest good. I can feel the strength in my hand. Now, how do I feel that? It's kind of practice. It's kind of a meditative skill that you can get, where you can have that stillness within, or even within a particular part of your body, that you can feel the difference. But you'll be able to do the muscle test before you can feel it. But the feeling or the strength or the weakness is really what's making the muscle test work. So there's the prying your fingers apart. There's the outstretched arm. Sometimes people use pendulums. You know what? I just realized that. Stop sharing. So I wasn't sharing my full screen when I did this part. So basically, your arms outstretched, and when you're going to feel the strength or the weakness in your arm when they're pushing down. Now, this is when someone else is pushing it. There's another one, since I have the camera up, that it goes by standing up. So let's assume I'm standing up right now. I'm actually sitting down. But let's pretend I'm standing up. What will happen is when you stand up, you're going to ask the question, and you're going to try to go completely neutral, and you're going to first determine which way is yes and which way is no when you're standing up. So if I say yes, 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 so I'll feel a leaning backwards. And once again, this is very subtle, so you got to figure it out on your own. Close your eyes, put your feet together, and then say no, 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 no. And then I feel a forward move. And so you can practice this standing completely upright, or in this case, sitting. It's actually working for me. And you can say, coffee is good for me to drink on the daily. So I can feel myself wanting to sway backwards. And so that's my no. So what is that that's telling me no? Well, it's just my own internal awareness that knows good from not good for my particular body through the mechanism of my physical body. It just knows what is good or not good. And it also knows true from not true. So there's also a pendulum. I don't have a pendulum, but if you've seen them, they're basically these things, anything that really has a weight on the end, and people will have it, and it'll be swirling like that. And you can get really still on these pendulums. It's usually like a crystal at the end with a chain, and it'll swing in a certain way. So you'll get very still, and then you'll say yes, and it'll start to swing in a certain way. And then you'll say no, and it'll start to swing in another way. And then sometimes there'll be a neutral, not yes or not no. You just got to play with it. So let's look at some other ones, some other ways. Those are all ways to muscle test. The main factor of it is to be able to become aware of that internal strength or not strength. So we have the pendulum, did that one already. Standing, leaning, just feeling strength, just feeling strong or weak. So we got all of these down. So feeling that strength and feeling the weak is the thing. You can feel it without any of the techniques. And then pretty soon you can actually get to where you just feel it's a yes or a no, and you just know. Another thing, so here's some tips on how to do it while you're doing it. So the first tip is ask. You want to ask for the greatest good. It's the greatest good. So right here. So is coffee good for the greatest good for me for the greatest good and the highest joy? You could even say both those. The greatest good. So what happens when you, why would I say the greatest good? Well, it differentiates between me as a personality to my higher self, sometimes called the Oversoul. And it's a higher perspective, because sometimes the things that are for the greatest good, my personality doesn't like that at all. And so to get it to work, you're going to get accurate answers if those are the answers that you're trying to get. If you're not trying to get answers that are for the greatest good, that are only for your personality, and you don't care if it's good for the greatest good or not, muscle testing is not going to work, which is interesting about it, which is this next point here. You must be over 200 level of calibration for it to work. Now, what does that mean? So once again, go to David Hawkins' book, Power versus Force, and it's going to explain that. What 200 is it's a level of it's the level of integrity. Basically, it's the place where true versus false are separated. True versus false. So true is in line with spirit, and false is in line with the deception or the lie of separation. The lie of separation is you're a separate personality that you need to take care of yourself. You take it from other people if necessary, so that they'll lose and you'll win. That's how things survive sometimes. So that would be part of the falsehood. You have to have developed spiritually to enter into at least 200 courage and beyond. So 200 is courage, 300 is neutrality, 400 is love, 500 is peace, and so on. I forget how they all are, but basically getting past these states of pride. So what are the things below 200? Well, pride and anger, and there's shame and guilt, and all those things are all below 200. So engaging in forgiveness and acceptance is going to be, practicing that is going to be how to even be in a place that you can muscle test at all, which is, it's kind of tricky. I know, to even know that about yourself, if you're there or not. But just so you know, if you're just doing muscle testing so that you can selfishly get what you want and you don't care if it's going to work for others, there's a pretty good chance that you're not making this mark of at least 200 or more. So you can ask anything also, as far as a statement goes. So you can say, I am, I mean, you could say my jacket is in the living room. Let's say you lost your jacket. I've actually had no luck getting these kind of statements to work, but you can ask that very well. But you can, once again, you can go through the different items in your kitchen and say, this is for the greatest, this is good for me. It's for the greatest good for me. And then you can test on it and be holding it. Another good way to start when you muscle test is get into a meditative state. And so for me, what I'll do is just do a breath in and breath out. And I'll kind of bring my attention up and down my spine and try to bring my awareness in and get into that meditative state. And sometimes I'll just muscle test at night when I'm meditating, and I can really feel I'm in a neutral place and I feel more confident in my answers. Also, once again, ask permission. So if you aren't in a meditative place, if you aren't above 200, if you aren't able to feel the strong and weak responses, this one's not going to work either. But if you do get to that place, ask permission first, because sometimes you're going to get no. Awareness, your higher self says, no, I don't want you to know that answer. And and then it's up to you to follow it or not. But most likely you're not going to get accurate information if you disobey when you get a no, when you ask permission, if it's okay to test for a certain thing. Last thing here, practice. There's just practice on yourself. Practice how you feel. Practice when there's big life decisions, and practice. Remember what outcome you got, and then remember what happens afterwards. A lot of times you would never realize the kind of outcomes that you would get. I remember there was a particular job that I was thinking about going to take the offer that they made me. And I was really unsure if I should do it or not. It seemed like a kind of a bad idea, but I consistently muscle tested yes, if it's the highest good for me. And then it ended up being a really great thing, a short-term thing. Actually, I was in for less than a year, and then I was out. Some other thing happened, and it ended up being an incredible, miraculous provision for me. And so I think back on that consistent muscle testing over and over, just to make sure that it really was what it was. So just keep practicing consistently, paying attention. You're going to get better. You can even join some Facebook groups. So if you go on Facebook and type David Hawkins muscle testing, David Hawkins calibration groups, that kind of thing, you're going to find groups, and people have up there all the time. Can you calibrate this? Can you calibrate this? What's the level of calibration for this? And it's 1 to 1,000, and they'll give you a great opportunity to put your rating in among other people that do it consistently. So I hope this has been very helpful for you. And shoot me a line, a comment, let me know what you think.